I seen a couple of bet slips where people had, this is how bad it is. Like, this is an indication.
20 legs ain't getting them, eh?
No, 3 legs. But listen to these 3 legs. Turbo to score a hat-trick, Ruben Garrick to score a hat-trick, and Jason Saab to score a hat-trick. And they were fucking close. Like,
hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the YKTR Sports Show. Doing a bit of a review here, joined by my co-host, Skipper Skate. What's up, baby?
it's good to be back, baby.
All right, so it wouldn't be rugby league without a bit of drama. The Dragons Boys barbecue. Obviously, we don't have all the details on the back of it, and obviously, we're connected with Corey Norman and all that sort of shit. So, your thoughts on that? We're just going to sort of...
Yeah, well, people are going to hit us up no matter what. I guess the information is going to keep coming out. We'll probably find out the next... I reckon they'll try to get on top of it pretty quick, the NRL.
Yeah, they're not trying to... The boys aren't trying to hide anything, are they? Obviously, they know they've kind of been in the wrong, so they're sort of just waiting for what's next, to be honest.
Yeah, they're going to get disciplined and it'll be pretty hefty, I reckon.
Be interesting what happens off the back of it. So, yeah, obviously, we're not trying to hide from the fact that this has happened, but we actually don't know more than you guys know.
Yeah, we know all the information that's out there at the moment.
Yeah, that's
and then I think now the boys are waiting on what the punishment's going to be. So I guess we'll find out. I reckon we'll probably find out by this afternoon, I reckon.
Yeah, they'll get on it pretty quickly. So, yeah, so Origin got named. Obviously, the big talking points, Mitch Moses about to make his debut. Obviously, congratulations to Mitch. He's put together a couple of years of really good football. So, you excited for him to sort of step into the...
Yeah, I think we're both sort of on the same page. We would like to have seen Adam Reynolds and Cody Walker play, but it just makes sense when they announced the team, and I sort of sat back and had a look at it. Mitchie's 26 years old. For the next 4 to 5 years, with guys like probably Ren Diggity and Mitchie Pearce, who are a little bit older now. Mitchie probably wasn't even in calculation because he's only been back for a couple of weeks. But a couple of these older guys who are closer to their 30s, with Mitch being 26, it just fits right, doesn't it? So, like, if anything was to happen over to Jerome and Nath over the next couple of years, I foresee them being the combination for the next 4 to 5 years. So
easily, yeah.
Mitchie's just that guy, and it'll be good. Like, there's no pressure on him in a way, so he can sort of just come and play his footy.
Yeah,
come and play his footy, and if they go well, then it'll give him a lot of confidence.
Yeah, he's sort of rolled into... there's always sort of been that stigma around Mitch at the moment when it comes to big times and big games and big moments. He's not quite there, and he is one of our game's better halves and deserves this opportunity. But do you sort of see that about him? I think it's heightened because of the kick that happened.
The kick on the weekend probably wasn't ideal, but and I guarantee he would have been feeling it. Like, there would have been that little... I'm not too sure whether Freddie would have given him the heads up, but like... Going into that game, he would have wanted to have a big game, and then to get a clutch moment like that to ice the game would have been nice for him, but didn't matter anyway. He's in the team, so...
I know this is Origin chat, but I was looking at the Parramatta side and the way that they played on the weekend. It was a very different style, wasn't it? It was very much like we're trying to match your forwards and go through them, and more like a final style of football where they kind of pulled away of the style that they normally played, and it kind of took him out of the game. He still kicked well, still made his tackles, which is important for Origin and stuff, but their style of play didn't feel like Parramatta.
But they've got it, like you said, it's a final style type of footy, so it's gonna suit them in the long run. Sometimes my biggest problem with Parramatta is they play too sideways, especially early in the year. We talked about how Reid Marnie straightened him up when he was playing really good footy for him at the start of the year. Sometimes I feel like they go too sideways, too expensive, but when in particular when Reedy and Nathan Brown straighten them up, run nice and hard through the guts, they still got that nice shape, but they questioned the defensive line early on through the middle. Well, you got Junior Paulo, Regan Campbell-Gillard, all these big bodies, like even Nia Cora coming off the bench. When they play that physical brand of footy, it keeps them in games like that. Whereas I reckon they can get a little bit away from that.
Yeah, and they got really good runners of the halves as well. Mitch is fucking rapid and got a bit of X factor. Dill Brown's got that strong carry in him for a 21-year-old. Yeah. So man, it's a good little balance. I just want to expand on the Rabbitohs sort of chat as well. Obviously, like I would have loved to see the Adam Reynolds, Cody Walker, and then keep Jack Wyden on the bench. Obviously, Jack Wyden deserves a spot, but man, you pretty much roll in the second or third best spine behind Melbourne and Penrith, and you get that same, you just play the same way that Souths play. And all the boys can adapt to that. All the boys are playing that sort of Penrith style, man. And then I would have moved Cam Murray to 13, move Isaiah Yao to the bench, and then move Angus Crichton up into the back rower spot.
Oh, Isaiah Yao would have been hard. He would have been hard to drop, considering how well he's played.
I wouldn't consider that a drop, but but then you know what, it's a dead rubber.
Yeah, I reckon, like I said, I think the age thing's big. I reckon if Ren Diggity and Cody Walks around that 25, 26, I think it makes more sense to put him in. But you get. I would have had, if I was just picking the team based purely on form, and who I thought was the best. If this is a game to win, if this is a decider, I would have had Adam Reynolds at half. I would have kept Jack Whiten at 6, and I would have had Cody Walker off the bench, who did a really good job. You remember last year when he come on in game 1, and then he played really well in game 2 for him.
Yeah.
He was, one of the better players coming on in that race. So keep Cody on the bench at 14. And he can play through the ruck with that middle third. And then you obviously got Damien Cook and Cam Murray still in the team. So, you go from the Penrith combination, like you said, to the South combination.
Yeah, it would be a handy little thing. Jack Whiten, obviously proven Dally M winner, solid at 5'8", but they will play a different style of football, won't they?
Yeah.
Or does Freddie just go like, this is how it's going to go? Obviously, he's very adept, but he brings probably a bit more of a physical presence and a running presence.
Yeah.
Probably behind that pack's probably not a bad thing either.
Yeah, and that pack, including Latrell, and I keep telling Latrell and Turbo into that.
Yeah.
It's almost like they've got 9 forwards, Brian Toto as well. So they'll play. They're just going to try bash them and run hard and try win that way, you'd say.
A couple of the 2 feel-good stories up at Curacao, long overdue as well. Obviously, Damien Cook's been in his prime for the last 4 or 5 years, but up at Curacao brings a little bit of a different element to it, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a nice little reward for him too. He's been 18th man for the first 2 games.
He was the best player on the weekend, I felt.
Yeah, he's nice, and he's been really. People haven't really been talking about him because he missed the start of the year. And then he played.
He's a team full of stars as well.
Yeah, he strung a few really good games together, and then missed a few games by being 18th man. For Origin. So, congrats to him. He's been around for a minute now, and happy to see him get a run. And I think you just mentioned Nico Hines. What a season for him, man.
Yeah, it's been a rise. So up at Curacao, obviously play a little bit of football with him. His deception around ruck and fixing our markers is second to none. So when he comes on. Not that they need any more go forward, but he just gives them a bit of a different look that maybe Damien Cook's not really part of his game. Not to say he can't do it, but that's sort of Uppy's specialty. So would love to see him in there with the full Penrith lot. But man, congratulations, Uppy. A good guy too.
And just one little bit, it helps out creativity for that's a bad one. For a guy like Jack Whiten as well. So you got, Mitchie's probably going to be in there for his kicking game. I'd imagine that's what Freddie will be saying. Kick the ball long.
Jack Whiten's got a huge boot, bro. He's left footer too. So
and then Uppy can come on and have that deception through the ruck, like you said.
Yeah. So Nico Hines is probably the feel good story as well. Rolling into camp, he was sort of just a backup. Missed out. Played the GF, but didn't get on. Is that right? Do I remember that right? Someone will correct me if I'm wrong or not.
I think he might have got maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah. So pretty crazy rise, and I had Nico at Manly when we were there. Yeah. So I got injured and had to go help coach the 20s and stuff, and he was a standout there. I was surprised that they didn't offer him a contract. So it's been a bit of a journey. I think his story's well documented. He's been a vocal advocate for mental health and stuff like that. Really great kid too. So and fucking a gun.
Yeah, again, he's not in the feel-good story Origin. He's the feel-good story of the year. The way he's played for Melbourne, he's been unreal. Cronulla will be stoked. You're watching them play on the weekend to get a guy like him coming in, and he's only going to get. He might be a bit of a rise, like a guy like Cody Walker. Sort of finding himself around that mid-20s, mid to late 20s. We've talked about how can it be an advantage for some players to come on a little bit later.
It's hard to hear because obviously we had Reed in here a couple of weeks ago, and he's dealing with a shoulder. And he's like, fuck, I'm just going to get back on. I was like, just wait, bro. And then you go, it's easy for us because we're outside the game. So I think once you're in football, you kind of live week by week, and sort of 4 years development in a Q Cup side feels like forever. But I feel like it develops better first graders long term.
Yeah, and you need to get that break though. That's important. You need sometimes the guys like this need the right fit at the right time, and then when it rolls, you got to take advantage of it. And if you can do that, guys like Nico, look at him now.
Yeah, crazy. One of the game's best fullbacks, more the most informed fullback anyway. All right, so sort of across the border now up into Queensland. Mulatalo officially denied.
Yeah, that's sad. Like we talked about it, we're hoping that he was going to get a run. I think there's a rule in place, and they've talked about it with the exemption that they made for Joseph Sawali at the Roosters. I think the NRL had the opportunity, and even Volandis at one point said that they were going to look into it, and he had hoped he'd get a run. So I'm not too sure what had happened, but like I said, Prez Munster was speaking about this on our show. This should have been stopped all the way back to him representing 16s, in my opinion. They shouldn't have let him play 16s, 18s, 20s, and then stop him. They've got to figure it out from that age. I reckon as soon as you start playing rep footy, they should get, if they're in the 16s, 18s, or 20s, they should go, well, if you want to represent Queensland, right, and you're past that date, they should have stopped him from then.
Yeah.
So then he could have put all his eggs into one basket, either played for the junior Kiwis, and then, he's turned down the Kiwis. It's very hard for him to go back on that now. But is Mulatalo Tongan or Samoan? So he'll...
not too sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, so now he'll get an opportunity to play for one of those teams, whoever he decides to represent. But it should have been nipped in the butt, and this stuff should now be nipped in the butt right from the start.
I don't like that 14-year-old rule, That's a random rule, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's like, all right, you want to go play, like, say like a Fijian dude, like Semi Radraja's play for Australia.
Yeah.
Like, that's flawed. It wasn't Mal Meninga the coach at the time, and he's the one saying all this sort of stuff here as well. I think, man, it'd be super interesting because 50% of the NRL players are Polynesian or Māori.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. And I heard Gus Gould talk about it back in the day, like early 80s, man. It was just pretty much Australia. So you could sort of do like the New South Wales versus Queensland. But it is a very touchy subject because it's like, it's the pinnacle of our game and it's like the ultimate rivalry. Like you can only pick one or two sides. So whenever there's a pinnacle to something, man, tempers get heated. So like someone like say if Tomalolo rocks in and he wants to represent Queensland, he's been here for a while. Say Kikau, like he's probably growing up in Fiji going, I'm going to go play in, he's not going to say, I'm going to go play in NRL. Someone picks him up and they provide a better opportunity for him and he starts up in North Queensland. Like, I don't know, man.
There's so many pros and cons to it. Like it's a tough one because what you've got the traditionalists who are like without it's not even a racist thing. It's like sort of growing up and making sure that they understand what Queensland, what the Origin brand means to them. Right, for some guys that come over New Zealand, like for me, just being like a casual fan of the game, and even I grew up here, but I sort of felt my loyalty towards New Zealand and whatnot. So. It's a tough one, man.
No, but then you'll get the guys that will like potentially switch over from Queensland to New Zealand, like someone like a Benny Teo, where he's basically born in New Zealand, come here when he was 17, but decided to flip. But then you get those super proud dudes. Like the way I think about it is like, oh, this is going to fuck up New Zealand Rugby League.
Yeah.
But then you'll get those proud guys like Cheese and Jerome Hughes who are like proud Māori dudes that, and like, if you look at the New Zealand Māori side, it's still a great side. Yeah. I think where the trouble comes is you need to loosen up the international laws because you got you guys like Jerome Luai and Brian To'o who are proud Samoan dudes, but they've grown up in Australia. Yeah. So their family have migrated here, look for a better life. They've grown up in Mount Druitt, which is a rough area, and now they just find themselves representing New South Wales and then probably representing Australia by the end of the year. But if you had to ask them, like, which one would you pick?
I think those boys are going to pick Samoa though, and I think they can because they're not tier one. But this is where it gets tricky. So the reason I believe that Fiji, like Viliami Kikau, he can't play because is Fiji Lukey? We could be wrong.
Nah, we've had this conversation before. Like only New Zealand.
It's confusing though.
Yeah,
it's I think we've had this conversation a couple of times, and I sort of can't understand why a guy like Viliami Kikau can, or like Mulatalo can't, but. Xavier Coates comes in and replaces him.
Yeah,
who's Papua New Guinean. Like it's so hard, bro. Like
so like we said before, like 50% of the NRL is like Polynesian. So what happens when that moves towards 60 and 70% of, do you know what I mean? So like if they're only going to pick Australians that have been here since before the age of 14, like you're not going to a 13-year-old like, do you want to play Origin? All right, go to fucking move to Australia when you're 13. Like I know some families would do that, but man. It's a lot of pressure to put on a 13-year-old with the hopes of even making it. You know what I mean? There's so much. There's six years before he's 20 before he can actually make a decision. So, man, I like they say they want the game to grow, and like they're like, oh, if you play Origin, you pretty much have to play for Australia. That's kind of like what they're sort of insinuating. But like, man, if you're play Origin, I feel like, and you're growing up here, you should be able to go wherever you want. So
what if they extend it to just say like a little bit further back, and if you represent, so just say if you've moved over by the age of like 15, 16, and you've done what Ronaldo's done, like he's a little bit earlier than that, but he represents, like if you represent Queensland 16s, 18s, 20s, it just makes sense that you should be able to play for Queensland. Does that make sense?
Where does the 14-year-old rule come from?
I think it's like the schoolboy, like coming over to play high school footy. That might be where it's around, but I think that makes sense. Like if you come over by 15 from one of the islands because you've been recruited to play like Harold Matthews at a club level, somewhere in New South Wales or Queensland, and then like I said, you end up representing Queensland 16s, then it should be 6 again. Like that's just sounds like a natural progression.
Do you know I brought up that rule, that sort of Dally M rule a while ago? Like you should get one exemption for each team. I feel like that'll work. That'll be good. Like obviously Queensland, they just grabbed Tomalolo straight out the back, and he potentially
But then
wouldn't change the result. But
would you have been happy if like a guy like Sam Burgess played for New South Wales?
Yeah.
Would you? Yeah, I reckon there'd be some uproar on that.
You wouldn't have. You wouldn't love to see Sam.
Oh, yeah, I'd probably like to see it because I know Sammy on a personal level as well.
Yeah.
Like, so it'd be cool. Like,
who the game's best 13?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to see him in Origin taking someone's head off.
That'd be cool to see him coming off the back fence off the first kickoff. But yeah, you're going further down with the traditionalists to fucking
Yeah. A few of the old heads fucking getting angry as well. So
yeah,
obviously, I would have loved to see it. Harry Grant ruled out.
Yeah, I believe that's official. That come out like at the start of the week.
Yeah.
So he's still a bits away. I was speaking to Munster about that again. To see how he was travelling, but I think he's been officially ruled out. But
yeah, he's got sort of a few injuries at the moment. It's kind of been like nagging over him, bit of a cloud over him. KP and Brimo both killed it over the weekend, so they'll throw them straight back into the side.
You think so? I think the teams get announced this afternoon as well. You think KP
and Newcastle going? You guys got nothing to play for. They can't do that though, can they?
Nah. And KP said before the game, I watched his interview before the game, that he wanted to have a big game for Newcastle, and then he was looking forward to getting back into camp. So I think his mindset's to play. I'm interested to see, like I've talked about, like he can add just different style of footy in that, that long four spread that we've talked about a fair bit. So Brimo started on the bench for him and then got injured in that first Origin. I think he might have played a couple of them. No, sorry, he was back this week. But, he goes to 14 role, you'd think, or maybe little Reed Marnie gets a run as well.
He's back playing?
No, he didn't play on the weekend, but when he did the podcast with us, he was hopeful to be back after the Panthers game.
Yeah, I think you got to be playing before you even rock up. That'll be kind of like what I'll be thinking. Yeah, I'd love to see KP back in. Obviously, he's my favourite player, plays for Newcastle, and he brings a voice. So when Valentine Holmes was at the back there, it's kind of, you can just see their shape doesn't flow. So when they got into that good boy area, they're very, very clunky as well. So, just been named.
Oh, here we go.
Fresh off the press. Kalen Ponga named at number 1, Valentine Holmes number 2, Dane Gagai, Taboya Fido, how do you say that?
Yeah.
The Hammer?
Yeah, the Hammer.
Yeah, congratulations on the debut as well. Fuck. Jeez, it's a tough position to debut in. You're either locking up Tommy Turbo or Latrell.
You know what?
At least he's got speed.
Hey, he's going to be – this is what I've talked about. Like, they need a centre to come out. Like, they need some young centres. This is the right decision for me because he's still growing into his body. It's going to be a tough task for him now, but it'll serve him well in the next 2 or 3 years. You think about Turbo coming on the scene when he first had GI.
Yeah, GI was pumping him, eh?
Yeah, so the Turbo still played well, but it'd be a good experience for him to go up against Turbo, and then once he builds into his body, I reckon that's a really nice selection from him.
Yeah, so do I. And there was a couple of times where Munster skinned with Capewell on the outside.
Yep.
Like he got an out ball outside the centre, but he just wasn't quick enough to do anything with it.
Yeah, he did a couple. He even had a nice little lob.
Yeah, it was about 3 or 4 times,
they had,
bro.
Block shape, and he lobbed it over top, and Capewell just couldn't have that finish.
Xavier Coates back in, probably the right decision there as well. Cameron Munster, DCE, Welsh, Benny Hunt at 9. We liked that decision as well.
And Munster loves it as well.
This is probably the best side that they pull out. Josh Papali, Papali'i, Capewell, Kafusi, Arrow, Brimson, Faosua Malawi, Fotuika, David Fafita.
Wow.
That's their best side. That's the best side. This is going to be a better Origin straight away, just after reading at the back of that as well.
Who's 18-19?
Francis Morlow. I feel like he deserved... the boys in front of him are a little bit better, but he was one of their better ones.
Yeah, and was in good. He's been in good form.
Yeah,
as well.
Kurt Mann, Thomas Fledger.
Oh, Kurt Mann.
Flegler, sorry.
Yeah, Grouse.
Yeah.
There we go. A little bit of breaking news as we're going.
That's cool. Yeah, obviously, that's perfect for us as well as we're talking about the Queensland side. But like I said, KP makes a big difference. I think obviously we know DC and Munster both really well and on a personal level. I think Munster needs to organise a bit more shape. And I know he's sort of calling it and the ball wasn't going his way, but I'd get him running a lot of the shape down there as well.
Yeah, I think those three in particular will flow just a lot better, smoother together because KP will bring that shape because he talked about on Skipper in the Prez with me that trained all week with Reece Walsh. So it's completely different fullbacks. Like he didn't want to say any excuses. They got pumped and all that, and he was accountable for that. But when you, as a footy player, when you play with a guy who's more, values you more of your ball runner, he's developed a bit of a passing game as he's gone on. But Reece Walsh, you throw him out the back on a 3-on-2, he's going to throw the cutout ball to the winger like he's done for the Warriors. So KP will bring that. He's definitely got that. He's like an up-and-coming KP, Reece Walsh. So
you sort of look at the New South Wales team go down like a touch.
Yeah, this is
still a good
I'm
side.
looking forward to this game now with with that team.
Yeah, still a good side. And then you see the New South Wales side Queensland side go up.
I reckon it'll be way more competitive for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So where's the game played? Does anyone know yet?
They're talking about playing at Newcastle, aren't they?
Oh, sick. Yeah. Fuck, KP will be fucking zinging.
That'll be grouse.
We won't probably never get that opportunity again too. So be a good time to get out there. Back to NRL land, the weekend of blowouts, obviously a hot topic right now. I come through, I was the first year of 20s, we kind of had close games, and remember there used to be those blowouts and you were like, this is so shit to watch. Yeah. That's now sort of migrated into the NRL scene. What's your initial thoughts on it? What's your...
like I'm switching off a few of the games, after
at halftime?
Yeah, at halftime, like once they're blowing out. What about you? Like, I just want to see. I've written down here that
does it take time to adapt to the speed of the new speed, or like is there too much of a good thing? Is the game just too fast now? It's just like
it's too fast. It's too hard for momentum to come back.
Very momentum-y.
Wayne Bennett. Wayne Bennett's talked about, like, for me, it highlights coaching as well. Again, how much, like, the difference between the best coaches. You look at the top 5 teams, like. Probably Trent Robinson is the exception to the rule on the weekend because he's got a Roosters team that's got 7 fucking stars out. Like, he would adapt.
But that'd be a lot of NRL teams anyway. You know what I mean? Not everyone's got the Roosters stock.
Yeah. But you look at them, they've been able to adapt. The quality of the rosters really stands out. For me, it stands out that there are the bottom tier of NRL players, like those coaches identifying weaknesses in teams and exposing them and just fucking keep attacking them. That's why you feel like certain edges are getting fucking hammered. Certain players are scoring 2 or 3 every week. Like,
there's so much more money that's coming to the game. Like, there's some really good Super League players over there that should be back here.
Yeah.
Aiden Caesar, Gareth Widdop, Blake Austin.
Yeah.
Like, if these guys...
Jimmy Maloney, he doesn't want to come back.
Yeah, he don't want to come back, and he's cruising as well. Dean Fadez over there as well. We've got a close connection with him through this sort of company as well. Man, there's some fucking out-and-out genuine... NRL players over there, and like we talked about this before, where like say a guy like you that went over probably like a little bit earlier than you wanted to, but you kind of just got over NRL and all the shit that sort of goes with it. But you're a type of guy that they'd stop blowouts. So you know what I mean? Like we say this about ourselves, like we were never the type of guys that were going to win games, but we could actually get ourselves into games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Some of the older guys, you look at, when they come back in, they can make a big difference. But like with me heading over, like I had a contract to stay here for an extra year, but I got a 2-year deal to go over to overseas. So like when you're at that age, you're going to take those deals. Like I was going to get less money to stay here.
I remember when Clint Newton was doing the CBA like a while ago, like all the top guys were getting more money and all the bottom guys were getting more money. Like the middle, like that's 80%, 90% of the NRL. Like, you know what I mean? There's rookies coming through, there's the superstars, and both these guys deserve to get paid more. But it's that middle guy is like, where do they stand? So, man, I'd love, and honestly, obviously it dilutes the competition over there as well, which is kind of a scary thought, but I just see we should potentially even move into like NFL or AFL where it's like we're dominant over here, but it's just such a better product.
Yeah.
And we'll still to stop these blowouts.
But like on the blowouts, it's fun. It's probably only going to be fun to really watch the top 5 teams.
But name me a sport worldwide besides maybe EPL or soccer.
Yep.
But those scorelines are just different, you know what I mean? Whereas you look at basketball, it's a little bit different this year.
Yeah, it's different this year, man. Like even though like just say at the start of the year or even last year before the rule changes, like you still knew who generally a lot of people would have picked. Melbourne, Rabbitohs, Panthers once they started playing the way that they're playing. Who else? Roosters before all the injuries. Like a lot of people, you sort of knew who the top 4 was going to be, but fuck, they weren't winning 50 like. 50-0
is 50-0 the new 30-0?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's the new 24-0.
Yeah.
Like, it's the new 20-0.
It's just so hard to swing momentum back. One of the rules that's been tossed up is if you score, you kick off.
That's yuck.
That just feels yuck.
Yeah, that is yuck.
I don't know. Does that stop it?
It probably would halt it a little bit, but someone brought up a good point on one of the posters talking about like you will be, just say when it is that odd top 5 versus bottom 8 versus bottom 8 game, where it's a chance to come back like the Dragons and the Warriors, and that was
a game, huh?
It was the lowest game, but they got the opportunity and they come back in the last 5 or 10 minutes. But like if they had scored, then they would have to kick back to the Warriors, and it would have then decreased their chance of a comeback.
Okay. Yeah, that
you know
makes
what I mean?
sense.
So like when the games, it'll ruin the actual games that are the the nail biters that everyone wants to see, you know, bit of momentum, down by 10 with 5 minutes to go, score a try, like, and they kick it back.
But the worst feeling is like you in that last 10 minutes where you feel a team getting momentum, mate, and you're on there, you just like
nervous
looking at the clock going, hurry the fuck up. But then when you're on the other side of it, man, that time goes so quick.
Yeah.
Is the game in trouble?
They need to look at it. I've got a little point here. The only people that are watching games, and the reason I turned off at halftime is because I'm off the punt this month for Dry July. But if you're on anytime try scorers and you're watching games like the Rabbitohs or Manly, some people, I've seen a couple of bet slips where people had, this is how bad it is. Like, this is an indication.
20 legs ain't getting them, mate.
No, 3 legs. But listen to these 3 legs. Turbo to score a hat-trick, Ruben Garrick to score a hat-trick, and Jason Saab to score a hat-trick. And they were fucking close. Like,
what was that paying?
I think like some of them pay like 100 to 1, but like I think it might have been Ruben Garrick only got 2, or it might have been a double. Like, but like that's, you get my point on it.
Yeah. That does make it interesting.
Imagine that like 6 months ago. I'm a bit of a punter. Like I don't mind having a double on anytime try scorers, as you know. But imagine like backing 3 people to score a hat trick or a double, even at least. So that's where it's at, and they're genuine chances, bro. Like they're playing the Bulldogs. Like.
Yeah, fucking. So, like, I've started paying attention to some of those tips, and obviously, you guys punting around hand. I'm looking at your slips, and I'm like, "Fuck, this is interesting." Obviously, you don't want to promote gambling too much, but it does add a bit of excitement to the game as well. Yeah. Nathan Cleary ruled out sort of the game's best half. How did Penrith look, in your opinion?
Yeah, it brings him right back to the field. It cements.
You don't realise how good he is until he's not there, isn't it?
Yeah, it cements Melbourne's favouritism for me. They deserve to be favourite because they've, you know, when you're on the weekend, they were talking about who'd they play on the weekend? Or the Roosters. They played the Roosters. Sorry, the Storm.
Oh, yeah.
And they still had Pappy, Harry Grant, and one more out. So
Nelson and Sofa-Solomon.
Yes, yep. So, you know, they're missing.
They're not going to swing the score too much, are they? Them 3?
Yeah.
Fucking stacked.
Like Nathan Jerome brings them back to the pack. That it could be crucial. I've talked about it. Me and you've talked about it a lot. You don't want to end up on the side of Manly.
Yeah.
Like for them, Melbourne and Penrith, they don't want to be coming up against Manly to go into the grand final. And therefore, if they progress, and we'll get to Manly, I suppose, a little bit. That's if they progress. You don't want to play Manly into Melbourne to win a grand final with your Penrith.
I feel like the game's never been more reliant on superstars more than ever.
Yeah,
like you look at a sport like basketball, and like once KD comes back in, or once LeBron's gone, it really switches the whole team around. I feel like rugby league's like that right now.
Look at the finals now. You got Phoenix Suns versus Giannis with all the injuries. Like Kyrie goes down, LeBron, AD goes down. For people that don't know, like those are important NBA players. And you've got 2 teams that, their records were good throughout the regular season, but at the start of the year, Phoenix Suns would have been paying 67 to 1, I think. Milwaukee Bucks around the 10. So, we're becoming a bit like the NBA and how crucial and how important the superstars are to our game.
So we've got to keep them obviously in the game as well, which I think we'll do. So, but like that middle part of the roster, man, that's so important.
Yes,
there's so many guns just plodding along,
and that's what's kept. I know they got blown out on the weekend, but that's what kept the Roosters like the Roosters. And this is where it comes back to coaching and the blowouts. The coaching is the middle part of the roster, and the coaching is so much important. And we're going to talk a little bit about it, like the return of Kalen Ponga for Newcastle. Look what that did to him. And Tony Staggs for the Broncos. Like he was unreal. His physicality that he brought to that team and the confidence that some of those superstars are, because
they looked over a good side in the Sharks too. Like they're in form. They had four on the trot, and obviously got some pretty good halves there. So it was a good win from the boys. Yeah,
it's another one like Payne Haas when he plays this year for him. Like he missed a few games through Origin and at the start of the year. When he comes back and plays for the Broncos, if you can keep Tony and Payne Haas like in that team, Ren Diggity comes there next year. You start to then you need like those middle guys like
Kurt Capewell's there as well.
Yeah, Kurt Capewell. You look at Manly, like some of the players like at the start of the year. We were talking about them being bottom 4 side. Tommy Turbo comes back. Ruben Garrick's
that's the best example, bro.
Top point scorer. A couple of my favourites, Brad Parker and Morgan Harper, are fucking playing like they're
above
so
their pay wicket.
They're so underrated. Like how they're playing.
You need those guys and those good those guys that have paid top tier. Your Tommy Turbo, Shaky, DCE. When your salary cap's so.
They're on $1 million, bro. Like they've got to play.
You know what I mean? Those other guys. they're really important, those key role players. And you got to play above your wicket if you want to have a shot at the title. And those guys are guys like Kepi, like some of their back rows are really, really nice too. So, man, Manly are exciting. How long? Like, we've still got a while to the finals though. So, we've got about 10 weeks.
We're on round 16 now. A couple of key games that I've pointed out. We've got the Storm. We'll play the Panthers into Manly rounds 20 into 21.
Yeah,
I reckon that's when the competition will start. For the top 4 or 5 teams, we'll find out where how superior Melbourne are to them, and then just where Penrith, because round 20 you might get Nathan Jerome back for that game.
Penrith's starting to look a little bit shaky from.
Or just because those two guys are out. Like if those two guys are playing, you looked at with Tyrone May and Matt Burton. We've seen now 3 or 4 games with those guys playing what they look like. So. Yeah.
So, well, let's touch on sort of Manly sort of very 50-plus-y lately.
Yeah.
How do you stop them?
This is a big one. And this is why I think, like, Manly, at Manly, they try to keep everything under the radar. Like, Desi won't want to be anyone talking about him, but I don't know how you stop Turbo, man. Like, I know he's played the Bulldogs, Cowboys, Titans in the last 3 weeks.
You can only play what's in front of you.
Yeah, he's only playing what's in front of him. But I'm just talking about, like I said, what Cherry's able to do with him, not only using him as a decoy sometimes at the back. When he gives it to him, same as Fozzie, they're taking advantage of him. All them guys, they'll be even better by the more games that they play together. But how do you game plan a guy that comes, like when they're 10 metres out from the line, he identifies like a lazy A and just takes a hit up. A small fullback and just takes a hit up and...
Small fullback, small 9. He's just going straight over him.
Melbourne are the only team that I can think of in recent history that have been able to game plan against someone like them. Like
Hainsey 09,
Benny Barber.
Benny Barber 12. They're the 2 guys. So I kind
Jason Tomolo in the Cowboys one as well. Like you sort of take away the big dogs.
I love like always. Obviously, when you look to the future, you got to look to the past as well. But that storyline with Tommy, it reminds me of like Haynes. Even
he surpassed him. Yeah, he surpassed him. Like I was watching it on the weekend. I've gone and I've obviously mates with both of them and played with both of them. So I've got a pretty good feel like of how they were as how they train and what sort of players they are. And Tommy's surpassed him already.
Yeah,
and he's even the gap's going to get further and further as the year goes on.
Yeah, I agree. So far, scary time. So, all right, that's us for today. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. We're going to drop Tuesday with Jordan's room stuff and 10 and a Ken merch as well. And then hoodies that we'll drop in, or we're wearing now, dropping on Thursday as well. So
we were waiting for the black tees? Is that what we're waiting on?
Yeah, we're waiting on black tees potentially. So we're sorting that out today. We'll be dropping tomorrow and then dropping on Thursday. So appreciate you guys. Later.